Some 39 minutes after 6, time for us to do the newspapers. But I don't have my new partner with me today, Joseph Akable, locked up in traffic somewhere. So it's me and you doing the newspapers. But before that, let me say happy birthday to Curtis Quadison. It's from your mother, Mrs. Jemima Quadison. Curtis, is your birthday. Happy birthday to you, Curtis Quadison. Enjoy the day and have a blast. Let's do the Daily Graphic newspaper, front page of the Graphic. The banner headline, Kwewu East towns deserted, schools affected following clashes with Fulani herdsmen. And when you get into the inside story itself, which is on page 3, it says pupils, students and teachers in some towns in the Kwewu East district in the eastern region have abandoned their schools, while some farmers have deserted the communities following acts of violence involving some local people and Fulani herdsmen, which led to the death of 9 people. And the story also says that the closure of the schools is likely to affect junior high school students who are scheduled to register for the 2018 Basic Education Certificate examinations. There's a lot of background to the story, which comes also with a photograph of the chief executive, the district chief executive of the area, Isaac Ajimai, the Kwewu East district chief executive. And we've got to definitely resolve this issue. I remember him in Terrier, my colleague, filing a very detailed story, a documentary indeed on this, but it still keeps happening. Sometimes we want to pretend that it's not an issue, but it is a very big issue. It's taken a whole page in the Daily Graphic newspaper. Back on the front page runs for Tete appointed acting managing director of Graphic. Former President Mahama had no hand in renovation of guest house. That's still very much a developing story, with the conversation on pretty much an NPP NDC lines. Government Entrepreneurship Fund invites applications, also another story. But let's look at page 53, because we know that Ken Ashibi resigned from the Graphic Communications Group, and now we're told that a former GJ president is the managing director of the place. Okay, so there we have it. The board of directors of the Graphic Communications Group Limited has appointed the editor of the Daily Graphic, Ransford Tete, as the acting managing director of the company. Mr. Tete, who joined the company back in July 1983, you won't believe it, as a reporter, and became the editor of the company's flagship newspaper in 2007, replaces Mr. Ken Ashibe, who resigned the position on October 31 this year after 6 years in charge of the Graphic Communications Group Limited. So you see, if you're a reporter, there's hope. Echo, there's hope. Mr. Ransford Tete started as a reporter, and then he rose through the ranks. Now he's acting managing director. But this is what we want to see. I mean, and we hope that he will not just act, but he will be made substantive managing director of the company. Congratulations to you, sir. All the best. Let's turn attention to the back page of the Graphic. Government Entrepreneurship Fund invites applications. And I think that we've talked about this on the show as well. Is it too late if you haven't applied? The management of the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Plan has called on individual groups with innovative business ideas to apply for support in the form of grants, soft loans, or both. The call was made upon the completion of a process by the NEIP to select a private sector implementing partner to administer the $10 million initial fund for the initiative. So if you have a small business, or if you're an entrepreneur, you're a young person, you're working for yourself, and fund is a huge problem, well, get the Daily Graphic newspaper and check out the back page and make sure you apply. There's one headline I missed on the front page of the Graphic. Ghana SATS one trio urged government to pay attention to space science. All right, so those are the stories in the Daily Graphic newspaper in terms of the headlines that we've captured on the front and back page of the Graphic. Let's do the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, the president says we will deal with free SHS challenges YEA to engage 500 youth in ICT training. AEC Boaten's apology forced insincere, according to Okudzeto Ablakwa, who's a member of parliament, and we know the minority's position on this. Implementation of one district, one factory, 191 COIs ready to take off in 102 districts. And that story is on page 4. A bit of that for you in the paper. It says a total of 473 entities have expressed interest in the government's flagship program, One District, One Factory, by presenting business proposals to be considered in the execution of the policy. Of the number, a consultancy firm evaluating the proposals has completed technical, financial, and commercial viability analysis on 462, the paper is reporting. But these are amongst the many things that the minister said to Parliament when he appeared before them. The rest of the story is here. But I also want us to go to page 3 in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. There's a story of the police arresting 2 fake doctors. I mean, they were close to becoming doctors, really. So they went through the studies, except that they didn't do their housemanship. And if you continue to read what is there by the ethics of the rules of Medical and Dental Council, medical students who fail their housemanship would be refused license to practice. And so what these 2 gentlemen that you see who are featured in the paper did, they actually set up their own facility and they advertised it on the internet to get people to train. They said they were looking for people, for students and doctors to train and work at a supposedly Kings and Queens teaching hospital, which they own. So that's the facility. And then in the process, they got arrested. So the rest of the background story and what the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of the Medical and Dental Council has disclosed is all captured there in the story. So Jerry Amawogbe Gidisu and his accomplice, Dr. Joseph Kofi Jansen, they are right here in the paper. Just tells you if you're doing something, finish it. Finish it so you can become a full doctor. One of them, who is 34, I think is Jerry. So he carries himself as a cardiothoracic surgeon. The guy has not even finished his housemanship. He has a big post like that. There's also another story about hairdresser who is before court for possessing weed. And the name is interesting. Kwesi Che Dakwa, who's a hairdresser, has appeared before the Accra Circuit Court charged with possessing narcotic drug without lawful authority. He pleaded not guilty to unlawful possession and deceiving public officer, contrary to Section 251 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960. There's the background of the story also in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let's see what the back page is reporting. And on the back page of the Times, rain renders wager German road on more trouble. And I can't imagine how many times we have to be talking about these roads, and it's still very much in that deplorable state. MMDCA's urge to clock revenue leakages. That's also another story in the back page of the paper. It says the Director General of the Internal Audits Agency, Ransford Ejay, has admonished Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies to put robust measures in place to clock revenue leakages. How exactly? You've got to read the rest of the story in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let's do the Daily Guide newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Guide, Mahame's guest house cost 8 million Ghana cedis. They've got pictures of that guest house. What we are not sure of, you know, usually when the conversation turns NDC, NPP, it's hard to figure out what is actually fact. So this facility, was it built many years ago? This was one that was built by the former president for his personal comfort. At least that's what we're made to believe. But, you know, the former president is also denying this. That story is in the Daily Guide newspaper. JJ fires NDC over corruption is also another headline on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. And I'm not interested in chieftaincy, according to Nana. which of the nanas are we talking about? I guess if you want to find out who exactly is saying that, you've got to look inside the pages. But yes, it's Nana, our president. There's also a man, 55. He gets 15 years for defilement. 15 years, that's too small. A 55-year-old man will spend the next 15 years behind bars for defiling a 10-year-old pupil. Kwabena Boateng was found guilty by the Justice Circuit Court in the Ashanti region, presided over by Abdul Yusuf Esibe. The convict pleaded guilty to the charge of defilement, and he was sentenced to his own plea on November 1, 2017. But I'm just thinking, 15 years, and the little girl is 10. When he comes out, the girl will be like 25. I don't know, it's too small. And that's why the conversation we have on the show is very important. We speak to a lawyer. If you decide to pursue these matters to the core, really, try to get justice, what are the challenges? What are the impediments on the road? Especially when you have somebody trying to compensate you with some cash and saying that, let this story die. Take this money and let's kill it off. After all, it's difficult. It seems for prosecutors to even gather evidence to get justice. So it's an important conversation that we'll have. And how does a 55-year-old who defiles a 10-year-old also get a 15 years sentence? When he comes back, how old will he be? He won't be too old. We need more. So we'll get answers from the lawyer that we will host on the show today. There are other stories in the Daily Guide. Let's see if there's news one. And there is news one in the center spread. Irama Bedu's son demands for state's burial. That story is certainly of interest. Says Caesar Ohene Kakari, son of legendary high life musician Irama Bedu, who is saying his late mother deserves a state burial. His demand follows a similar demand by family of late veteran musician Papa Yankson, who was later given a state burial by government. Caesar, who was speaking on Radio Universe, explained that he sides with persons who think his mother should be honored with a state funeral. What do you think about it? Let me know if you've got a say. But that's it for the Daily Guide newspaper. Let's do the Finder newspaper. Front page of the Finder. 1.2 million pay taxes to cater for 27 million Ghanaians. That's coming from Emmanuel Kofi, Commissioner General, Ghana Revenue Authority. We've hosted him here this week as they launched their program that's basically appealing to all of us to voluntarily walk in and talk to their people about taxes and pay our taxes, really. And the fact that when you pay your taxes, it goes around to do a lot of things for us, build a lot of infrastructure and many other things. So that story is in the Finder. Also on the front page, 500 startups to receive NEIP support in first year, according to CEO. And this is, I think, was in one of the papers that I earlier reviewed. So if you have a business and you need some funds, looks like you can get some funds from this. Sipton Communications acquired by UAE investors. Insults should not deter women from politics, according to Christian Churcher. Insults should not deter women from politics. That's a good call. Government to beef up security at oil fields, according to Defense Minister. There are so many other stories in the Finder newspaper. Let's do the Daily Dispatch, front page of the Daily Dispatch, and then we will go online to check out what is on myjawline.com, and then we do a couple and we say goodbye. Not quite. We make way for sport, but let's do the Daily Dispatch. On the front page of the Daily Dispatch, media houses to be prosecuted for adverts on fake cure for impotence, infertility, and others. So if you're a media house and somebody brings an advert that they've got a cure for impotence and infertility, and the others that will probably be outlined in this story, we're told, according to the headline at least, that you could be prosecuted. You can read a lot more about that. I will contest for NDC's 2020 slot, according to Spio Gabra. So it's done, dusted. He is going for 2020. What we don't know is if Alban Bagman, whose name has also come up many times, is also doing 2020. I guess we'll get to know in the coming days. Let's turn attention and do the online review. We'll start from myjoyonline.com, but let's share a few of your messages, and please stick to SMS. I think for some reason I'm not getting your WhatsApp messages, so let's do the regular text messages. This one says, sometimes someone says something really small and it fits right into that empty place in your heart. Happy belated birthday. And shout out to Ro the Motivator. Hey, and this belated birthday is to me. My birthday was in September, but thank you, I receive it. This is from Jemai Abdul in Kwewu Afram Plains. You sent an earlier text. This one says, illegal galamsey is still going on at Amenfi East and Central on Ankobra River. This one says, is from A.U. Farouk in Tamale, says, shame on to MPP government for wanting to divert our minds from the mismanagement of state funds they created at the Cocoa Board. And this one also says, good morning, Mama V. The parents should contact the district so that they will use disability fund and send the child to school. So that's coming from the story in our AM News filed by Jojo Kobna. There's feedback on this. Thank you very much. Send me a message if you've got if you have a say on any of the stories that you've heard, at least. Oh, okay. You can also still send me WhatsApp messages. My messages are downloading now, so let's read a few of them before we go online quickly. This one says, we're empowering the rural folks in education with our transformative seminars. Oh, Charlie, don't use my line to advertise. This one says, the late, where am I? Yeah, the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, if you make strong allegations that I can't repeat, I can't read your message, but this one is on Shatta Wale. Shatta Wale, the most popular musician in Ghana. Shatta Big No Size. Enoch Azari from Wasa Esunja. I have to agree with you, particularly, you know, as the president gave him time. The president is the biggest person in Ghana, and if he gets time for even 5 minutes, Charlie, it's a big deal. This one says, the Almighty Allah has blessed us with a man with vision to put Ghana first before any other thing. I see where you're going. Buzua in Gushegu. But let's do the online review. Let's turn attention to myjoyonline.com. Tension in Adan East as assembly members vote new DCE. There's mounting tension in the Adan East District Assembly as President Akufo-Addo's nominee for the DCE appears before members for another round of voting. Also on the page, I have not said, quote, NPP better at managing economy, unquote, according to Spio Gabra. He says he's not said that Nanado-led NPP government is better at economic management than the NDC. So if you had any other report that suggested so, he's clarifying that position. Women won't have equality for 100 years, according to World Economic Forum. I'm not sure we should be angry about this, should we? No, I don't think so. 500 youths to receive training, employment in ICT. Ghana drops by 12 places in latest World Bank Doing Business report. Ghana recorded one of its biggest drops in the latest World Bank Ease of Doing Business report, with the data showing the country stepping down by 12 places. 12 places is a lot. It means that we're not as conducive as we've been boasting, apparently. Details of that on myjoyonline.com. Let's move on quickly. Sees crucifixion of A.C. Boateng, MPP MP to minority. The chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Oh, okay, so we just lost that, but we can bring it back at least. Otherwise, let's just run through what's on myjoyonline.com. Okay, so the chairman of Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament says the minority's persistent calls for the South African High Commissioner to be sacked is self-righteous. And I've heard some of them who are saying, as for NDC, we don't want you to talk some. Let other Ghanaians speak, but not NDC. New NSS boss. New NSS insurance, not boss, I beg your pardon. New SS insurance scheme is daylight robbery, according to a former head of the service, Professor White. Just go. Minority wants a battle diplomat out. There are lots of other stories on myjoyonline.com that you can check out, including videos. If you missed the AM show, we had great conversations. You can always catch up. There's a link on myjoyonline.com that will take you to our TV, and you can catch up on the things that you missed on the show. Joyce Bauer can deceive Ghanaians, but when the due day comes, the good people of Ghana will not forgive her. All right, that's a message that I've just received. It's from Ortega in Buepe, sending that message. We'll go to City FM Online, but not before I do this. This one says, it is time Rawlings is told in the face that during his regime, there were more corruption than it's happening now. That's Kwame Kafui in Ho. And this message is coming because of the headline that we saw in which of the papers? One of the papers at least. That's, is on Rawlings commenting on some corruption. Yeah. JJ fires NDC over corruption. That headline in the Daily Guide newspaper. Let's do City FM. Government sets up task force to deal with political vigilantism. That's a revelation there. So we've set up what? A task force? Bahamas Cocoa Board Guest House, not a new building, but details of that you've got to check out. Unrepentant A.C. Boateng is forgiven. Ghanaians in South Africa are saying. Okay, so colleges of education teachers on strike over unpaid salaries. This is huge. They're saying that all the colleges of education are on strike. We'll be monitoring the impacts of that. We'll bring you reports on that. Final funeral rites of late Asante Hima slated for December 11. And if you've got a funeral, so there are some do's and don'ts if you're in the Ashanti region. So you've got to monitor that seriously. All right, let's do BBC and let's make way for sports. The Africa page of the BBC, there are some highlights. Burundi bans women drummers. Tanzania bans 6,400 live chickens. There's a ban on Burundian female drummers as part of a series of measures to maintain traditions. Also, chickens illegally imported from Kenya are banned, and there's a total of 6,400 of them. Unmarried sex row leads to jail term. So there's a lady in Egypt, and she's been sentenced after making remarks that were charged to outrage public decency. You have to be glad and happy that you live in Ghana and you're a Ghanaian. Nigeria grazing ban to stop deadly cattle wars. Women won't have equality for 100 years. As for this story, I have to take my time and open it and read it. Is that supposed to scare us as women? But Charlie, we can never get to equality, can we? All right, let's do some messages and then that will be it. So if you're interested in any of the headlines, any of the stories that you heard in the newspapers or online, you can always go to the newsstands and then grab the papers and read, and then also visit the websites. But stick with myjoyonline.com. You find all the stories on myjoyonline.com. A few of your messages. This one says, which class of Ghanaian do you belong? You're asking me. Do you belong to the George A.C. Boateng Ghana or the Ghana which I belong? If it is the former, then don't make the mistake of visiting South Africa. It's from George Gad in Takwa. But the good thing is that he is our High Commissioner to South Africa, but he doesn't own South Africa. South Africa is a beautiful country, and I'll go to South Africa any day. This one says, any attempt to deduct 15 Ghana cedis from National Service personnel allowance will be met with massive demonstration. Insurance should not be forced. OKEP in Techiman. And I take it that you're doing your national service. There's a birthday message that's coming through. I'll get to that. This one says about the sugar factory issue. Is our politicians doing us good or evil? God have mercy on this country. Ghana. Isaka from Takwa. And the last one we will take, I'll come back and do the rest, is a birthday message. Happy birthday to my dear friend Miriam inside Tamalis from Mohammed Saeed, aka Saifa the Blessed. Keep sending the message. I would make time for that.